Well, another Wednesday Night War just went by. We're also going to be talking about the NXT and this week's Dynamite with the 30-year anniversary of Chris Jericho's amazing career. So all of that is coming up on Deleted WrestleZone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Deleted WrestleZone. All things pro wrestling from AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, many promotions, matches, wrestlers, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So before I keep moving forward, as you all know, we had a little bit of the dip in the views and ratings due to the fact of the vice president debate between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, but we're not going to be talking about that. But if you guys wondering how the viewership and ratings did, but however, they both shows did okay, but however, only one had the most views and ratings this week. It doesn't mean it changes anything. Sometimes there's programming that gets in the way and we just don't see it. So, who actually won this week is in fact AEW Dynamite with the views of 753,000 views. Compared to last week, it was 866,000 views. As they got the rate of 0.31. The week before that, it was 0.33. So yes. So basically, it just went down. Not a big deal because we all know what happened. It was the vice president debate. As for NXT, they only had 639,000 views compared to the week before, 736,000 views. And as for the ratings, they only got 0.16 compared to a week ago, 0.19. So we can't say that in a way the both shows were good. People are just more curious about what's going on in the politics, in the world of politics. I know it's very difficult. We know that both shows have been not doing great, like not reaching the $1 million mark, the million mark. Basically, that's what's been happening. It is what it is. We cannot change that. I mean, sometimes programmings change that for them, but that's how the way it works. But right now, let's go jump in with AEW Dynamite. Well, this episode of AEW Dynamite was very special. As you all know, they were celebrating the 30-year anniversary of Chris Jericho. So they had a pretty interesting thing what they did, most of it, where people talk about his how much he remembered, how things he changed, what people's best memories, of course. But the biggest thing that happened was seeing some of the bigger celebrities, such as Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons of Kiss, Slash, Shaquille O'Neal, Gabriel Iglesias, Chavo, Hiroshi Tanahashi, many others. I will speak about Hiroshi Tanahashi and another thing later on where I like to call the elephant in the room or something, or can it be possible? So, first match of the night. I have to say this was a good one for me. It was for the FTW Championship between Brian Cage, who's the current champion, and Will Hobbs. So basically, this is one of those matches where we hardly get to see, bigger men face off. That's something that we never seen on WWE or any other programming. But in a way, it was really amazing how AEW were able to pull it off. Now, the way it was, you cannot expect who's going to win this one, but the way it ended was with Brian Cage, as always. But as soon as the match was over, here comes Ricky Starks, and Taz gave Hobbs an offer he cannot refuse, saying that he would like him to join Team Taz or else he'd get beat up. But out of nowhere, here comes Darby Allin into defense. He still has his issues towards Taz and his team for what they've done to him. over the recent months since before All Out. Now, next thing we have is Lance Archer. As you all know, we haven't seen him in a couple weeks due to the fact that he was contracted with the coronavirus. But this is another thing that I will speak about in the elephant in the room, where they started mentioning his match with John Moxley that took place at Wrestle Kingdom, where it was a Texas Death Match, from what I understand, if I can remember. I saw that match, but yeah, was very unusual. But I feel like it's pretty cool that they're acknowledging a bit on that. I'll explain to you guys more about that. But yeah, next thing we have is the AEW World Tag Team Championship match, which is a 20 minutes bruises with business. I don't know what they call it, between FTR and the Hybrid 2. Now, it started out great with Hybrid 2 and FTR, how they did, but the one thing that kind of made things a little worse was, how do I say, Jack Evans botched his little flip move, and there was a moment where the commentary kind of covered it up, saying that he hit him with Jack Evans hit Cash with his foot, and it was kind of interesting that they kind of did that, because the ending part was great. It feels like Jack Evans might have hurt himself, and FTR has always picked up the victory. But however, at the end of the match, they showed up the Bucks, who've been watching this match, not happy how things have been going for them. So they decided to super kick the camera guy. And of course, like, FTR doesn't know what to make of it. But right at the moment that happened, here comes a picture of them being set up as weenies. As you know, FTR has been, not acknowledging the best friends due to the fact they don't feel that they're in the same level as them, that they are just a comedy relief team. So they decided, you know what? So you guys are a bunch of weenies. And Chuck Taylor said that they've spoken to Tony Khan, and they're giving him the opportunity next week, where FTR will put their titles on the line on the anniversary. I think this is the last thing they need. But I think this is more of the build-up now, where we could see the possible match between FTR and the Bucks, even though FTR does not want nothing to do with them, but we'll see how that goes. Next thing we got is MJF talking about Jericho, how he appreciated him. I don't know what the angle in this is all about, but it's kind of interesting, because we know that they both are almost similar. You look at Jericho, who is a veteran. You look at MJF, who could be the future. That's one of those things I've been noticing. But yeah. Next thing we have is the AEW TNT Championship, the dog collar match between Brody Lee and Cody. Now, this was one of those matches that was pretty good. But the one thing that Brody did not appreciate is knowing Silver keeps getting in the way. So he told him to sit down, but he keeps knocking out. So Anna Jay showed up and take him. But much of the match, you've been seeing Brody Lee using his power and strength to try to take out Cody in every possible. But the biggest surprise is where they did not post it. It was in picture, where Cody pile drive Brody Lee through a table. But they actually added the replay, which was good. But the way it ended, Cody put the chain parts of the chain all over Brody's face, his mouth, and his eyes, and gave him the crossroads. And that allowed Cody to win back the TNT Championship. And of course, the Dark Order were in disbelief, that they can't believe that he lost. Now, I know people have been talking about this, like, this was a dumb match, but however, we need to look at it at a different perspective. Even the Square Circle Psychobabble group made some valid points, and I don't know how everybody would feel. As you all know, recently, Cody said right at the point that he is back, that he's willing to put the title on the line every week. The first challenger was nothing more than Orange Cassidy. So he is the first challenger that's going to take place next week. Now, however, some of you have now been questioning why did Cody regain the title after losing it weeks ago. Well, there is a possibility that the Square Circle Psycho Battle made that they kind of ran with it. Let's say Cody loses the title to Orange Cassidy, all thanks to Mr. Brody Lee interfering. That could be a possible choice because it would make sense. This is how it works. It would look bad a little bit if he pinned a high profiler, would look Cody more incompetent. But if Mr. Brody Lee interferes and costs the match, it could lead to a rivalry between Brody and Cody. It will be nothing more about the title anymore. It's about who is the most dominant person in the company. That's always been the way. And as for Orange, he could be becoming the next champion. But there has to be ways to ensure this will play out safe for everyone. So that's one of the speculations that could happen. I'm not saying it is, but it is. And I believe what they're saying is a possibility. We'll just wait and see what happens next week. Next thing we have is they just announced 3 new participants for the tournament for the AEW champion, be the number 1 contender for the AEW World Championship. They already announced Jungle Boy, Rey Fenix, and Kenny Omega. This week they announced Wardlow, Colt Cabana, and Hangman Page. Now this is one of those matches where you're like, this is like, whoa, could this have possibly we see Hangman and Kenny face to face? You may never know. Next match we have is Big Swole versus Serena Deeb, and it was okay match. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty good. They showed a little bit of what Serena Deeb can do, and Big Swole, being Big Swole as always. But however, Big Swole won the match, and I'm feeling okay with it. I mean, I feel they could put more into it, but we'll just wait and see what's gonna happen. Next up we have is Jon Moxley giving his little statement about saying he's ready, like he knows that he's being gunned. He said that he even talked about his reference with the New Japan match that he had with Lance Archer. But he said the only way he has to take that title off is over his dead body, because he made a good reference point. Everyone dies. So that's what he wanted to show, and that's pretty good. I like how they were going. So basically, Jon Moxley knows that there is a chance he may not come out of it, but we'll just wait and see when that happens. That match will take place next week on the anniversary event. Now, the main event is the Chaos Project, Luther and Serpentico versus the Inner Circle members, Leader, Chris Jericho, and Hagar. This was a good match. As you guys don't know about the history between Luther and Jericho, these guys go way back for almost 30 years. They both are Canadian. They ran into each other for many years. It was a good match, I have to say. This showed a bit of, I feel like maybe Chris Jericho put a little bit of Luther over, since not a lot of people are still familiarized with them, because he's mostly been popular in the independent scenes and in Japan. But yeah, I have to say it was a pretty interesting match how it went. But however, it always ends with Jericho giving the Judas effects. And of course, right at the end of the match, here comes MJF, as always, try to show his appreciation. So basically, it ended kind of like one of those family sitcom type of matches where all the heels come out to celebrate with Chris Jericho and all that. So that's how it ends. They keep going. Executive producer Jericho, lighting technician, everything Chris Jericho. I thought it was so interesting to see, but it was alright. So that is it for now for AEW Dynamite. So let's go with NXT. Alright, we just did NXT Takeover 31. It's the aftermath of what happened. We all know what happened in the aftermath. Great match between Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor, Io Shirai and Candice LeRae, and many other things. So the first match they started is Tommaso Ciampa and Kushida. They said that this match happened because of a little run-in that happened between Kushida and Tommaso Ciampa. It was a pretty good match. I'm not gonna lie, it was good. But I think the takeaway was Velveteen Dream showing up and trying to attack Kushida from out of nowhere and costing Kushida the match, and it built up a rivalry. I know few people were saying that this was unnecessary, but whatever the case was, they decided they got to continue with the feud between Kushida and Dream, and all this and that. But as for Tommaso Ciampa, we haven't seen much of him recently. I know there's been talk and rumors that he could be heading to the main roster, but however, he did state in an interview that he would rather retire than go to the main roster. So basically, they have nothing for him. We'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen. Maybe he might get drafted or not. We'll just wait and see. Next thing we have is Ember Moon coming out. We haven't seen her. She's now back to NXT. She hasn't been there for almost years. Last thing we heard, she was injured, but she made her return at NXT Takeover 30 when Toni Storm revealed that she's be coming to NXT to Io Shirai and all this and that. So pretty much that's what's happening. And of course, Io Shirai wanted to talk to her and all this stuff, but here comes Rhea Ripley, who still feels like she has unfinished business to obtain what she felt that belongs to her, and that's the title that Io Shirai contains. But however, Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez attacked her from behind, started beating up, and then of course Ember Moon showed up to give her a helping hand. Io just stood there, just watching. Like she doesn't know what to make of it. Like she feels like, they can fight who gets the opportunity to face her. That's what she probably will be doing. Now, earlier in the day, we see, but as you know, as soon as this whole thing between all these women took place, William Regal come out and address that there will be a match, and the main event will be Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai teaming up against Rhea Ripley and Ember Moon. So that's what will be the main event of the night. Now, earlier in the day, they actually talked to Drake Maverick, where he is now being teamed up with Killian Dane. For weeks now, Killian Dane has been ignoring Drake Maverick for a while because he doesn't want nothing to do with them. So it was like one of those oddball tag teams, kind of like Daniel Bryan and Kane as Team Hell No, which was good. And I feel like they might be doing something similar to it, but we'll just wait and see how they were going. Now, in the interview, Io Shirai gave a statement about how everybody wants a piece of her. She said it's not her problem. Her main problem was the title. She knows she could lose it, so she's focused on that. So I think for her, it doesn't matter who will come after her for the title. It doesn't matter if it's Rhea Ripley or Ember Moon or Dakota Kai. It makes no difference for her which one of these girls will come for her title. So she's well being prepared for this to happen. So that's how I see it in that. Now the next thing we have is let's see, Undisputed Era giving a message to Ridge Holland. Now it's still unclear what was Ridge Holland doing at the NXT Takeover when he viciously took out Adam Cole, beating him up. It's still no word why he did it. Nobody knows, but he did state that Adam Cole said that he doesn't care what his reason, but he should not have crossed the line. So basically, Adam Cole and the rest of the Undisputed Era are going to teach him a lesson. So that we may have to see when that day happens. Next up, we have a tag team. This was a squash match between Everrise and the team of Drake Maverick and Killian Dane. It was an interesting match. I mean, they did some interesting moves, but however, Killian Dane did it again. He knocked out Drake Maverick, but he carried him out. I don't know. He started having sympathy for the guy. It's kind of interesting where they're going to go with it, but I'm kind of interesting how this one's going to be playing out. Now, we all know about Toni Storm. We haven't seen her for quite some time. She was the former NXT UK Women's Champion until she lost it to Kaylee Ray, and she was unable to regain it a few months ago. But however, she did state that she's been in Mexico the entire time, trying to get her head back together and all this and that. And now she's coming to NXT, to take the world by storm. I think it's kind of interesting to see where she's going to go now with this. And I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited too. Next thing we see is the Garganos are still trying to recover where they have lost their efforts to obtain some goal that they want to attain. Gargano lost to Damian Priest, and Candace lost to Io Shirai. By the time they spent much of the time walking their dog, by the time they got there, they see a huge screen TV, but a note by Indy Hartwell saying that she needs a new TV. It's still unclear what her intentions were, but Johnny's like saying, she's a goof, she should have never beat anybody. So it's still unclear what's going on. But when he finds out, oh, she gave her TV, that's good, it's free TV. So basically, it's still what's going on. So I don't think Candice knows what in the world's going to go down. But that's not the end of it. We'll get to that. As you know, Austin Theory has spent the next couple weeks in losing efforts, losing to Bronson Reed, losing to many Damian Priest and few others, including Adam Cole a week ago. So he puts himself in the match where he declared himself it was a warm up, it was against Leon Ruff, but the person who responded to him, the challenge, is none other than the return of Dexter Lumis. We haven't seen him ever since he hurt himself in that triple threat series, but we did see him, a glimpse of him, or he just made an appearance in front of Cameron Grimes a week ago, the eve before NXT Takeover. But it's great to see him. I'm a huge fan of Dexter Lumis, of his character. I love how he's psychotic. Like, you don't see that every day. But he actually did put Austin Theory in his place and put him in that infamous submission move, and of course ended that way. But however, out of nowhere, he was caved in by Cameron Grimes. Cameron Grimes thinks he took his shot and that he is going to the moon. So I think we may see a very interesting rivalry between Cameron Grimes and Dexter Lumis. I feel this is something special they may come around to see, because I really like to see that. So yeah. Next thing we have is Dakota Kai and Gonzalez giving the reasons why they attacked Ripley. Dakota Kai feels that the women's division hurts, and she feels Rhea Ripley feels like she earned it more. So she's saying that she needs to be in the back of the line like everyone else. So that's always been the case. Like, who is the one who's going to take out Io Shirai for the title? And that's always been that whole argument. But we just got to wait and see, because they're ready to they will be part of the main event. So Cameron Grimes, as you know, as soon as what he did he said he's happy that he is going to the moon. So this is going to be interesting to see. Now, Rich Holland said, why not? After we don't know what was his real intention. So I don't think he cares what his intentions. I think he just wanted to fight, or whatever the scenario is. Now we have an interview with Damian Priest. As we know, he was successful in his second title defense against Johnny Gargano. So he's very happy, and the party is still going for him. But the real question is now for Damian Priest, who will be his next opponent to face him for the North American Championship? I mean, there's a long list of people I can think of, but yeah. Next thing we see is a match between Rich Holland and Danny Burch, two fellow British guys. But it was a good match. I say it was more of a brawler match type. But however, Danny Burch was able to hold his own, was unable to beat Rich Holland, but apparently Holland was intending to hurt more Burch. But however, Orny Lorcan, Burch's tag team partner, showed up. The man was like beating up Rich Holland like it was nothing, getting in his face. But there was a moment where Rich Holland, Orny Lorcan jumped on top of him when he jumped out of the ring and landed him, and apparently something went wrong in it that they had to pull him away. So Rich Holland in real life got hurt, so he was carried to a stretcher. Now, as you all recall, I did spoke about Gargano's not happy, not losing, but however, Johnny has been happy with the fact that he got a new free TV thanks to Indy Hartwell. But however, Indy Hartwell sent something to Johnny to take a look at. In there, he was reviewing the women's battle royal that took place before Candice became the number one contender. So they were watching it, and Johnny was saying to Candice that he noticed that Indy Hartwell's been helping her, and Candice says that she didn't notice because she spent most of her time looking around her shoulders. So basically, that's always been. So it looks like maybe we may see a new member to accept the Gargano way. So I don't know exactly if that's the case, but we'll just wait and see where they're going with it. I feel like this is going to be an interesting storyline and maybe somewhat of a faction. As you know, they're still doing the whole Patrick thing with the video. I mean, we haven't seen him, but I can't wait to see him back. So you know, much of the time, what happened, as you know, what happened to Rich Holland. I mentioned that he got hurt. It was really bad, so they actually stretched out, took him out of stretcher. So they had to try to make this the last maybe 20 minutes or so of programming, whatever they got left, to go fast, because that's been the case. So the next match was a women's match between Shotzi Blackheart and Xia Li. Now, I'm going to skip ahead on this one because Shotzi Blackheart won. But the biggest thing that happened is Boa, another fellow Chinese man, shows up in a suit, but sending a letter to Xia Li. It's still unclear what was that all about. Is something else that's going to happen? I'm not sure. I'm very curious what they're going to go for her. Now we're seeing the attitude of her, that she cannot accept the loss. So I'm very curious where they're going to go with this. Now we jump into the main event. Rhea Ripley and Ember Moon teaming up for the first time, facing off against Dakota Kai and Rachel Gonzalez. Now this match was very good. I liked it because it showed Ember Moon and Rhea Ripley want a piece of the title, but they know they have to focus what's in front of them. Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. We all know Dakota Kai's true motives. She wants the title and proclaim that the women's division belongs to her. Io Shirai, it doesn't belong. But Rhea Ripley wants to regain what she lost back in WrestleMania. And as for Ember Moon, well, she's back. But I did saw how both Ember Moon and Rhea Ripley work cohesively, because even though this was more like they know what's at stake, they know what they want, but they decided, let's put that aside and just get this done. So that's what they've been doing, and I feel that match showed a lot. Okay, we may have what we may agree that we want the same thing, but we'll just see what happens. But luckily, it was Ember Moon who took out Dakota Kai with the Eclipse. It was, wow, amazing to see her do that again. So she won the match for her team, so we just got to wait and see what's going to happen. So as this right now, let's just jump in with my final thoughts on both shows. Okay, my final thoughts of the shows. I have to say there were certain good programming. Which one had the better show for me? I have to say they're probably equally matched for me. I'm not 100% sure because, I mean, face it, AEW we're celebrating 30 years anniversary with Jericho, but there was some good matches that they had. I mean, they're both the same. I feel like they did the right thing, despite the fact, to me, because I did explain that the viewership and ratings dipped down a bit because of the debate that took place with both Harris and Pence. But it is what it is. It just happened. I mean, there's no argument unless you want to argue. But however, I can't decide. I mean, I'm still a bit more biased on that. So if you guys can tell me which show is better for yourselves for this weekend, for this past Wednesday, you tell me, leave a comment down below, and I'll get back to you. I'm still stuck. Sorry. But right now, let's address the elephant in the room. Or should I say, what's being buzzed all over social media. As you know, this episode, it started buzzing more and more and more with AEW. If you guys notice, Tanahashi left a little message for Jericho congratulating him on his 30th year of his career, but behind him you have the New Japan logo. Now, this is something that people will need to understand. There have been decisive ways where they don't want to associate themselves. New Japan did not want AEW to mention them whatsoever. And yet, Tanahashi has that logo right behind him and they just showed it. And B, both Moxley and Archer mentioned their death match, their Texas death match that took place this past Wrestle Kingdom. Some of you are saying, could this be a possibility of a partnership between both AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling? Well, that is the topic that's been buzzing. The reason this is happening was because Harold Mage, who is this Dutch businessman, has announced recently that he is leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling. However, people are saying, why is that a big deal? There has been talk that it's possible that Harold Mage might have been the reason that AEW and New Japan were unable to work together. I know there have been situations where things have changed. Apparently, from what I understanding, New Japan Pro Wrestling have lost money financially on I don't know exactly what. And I know that there's been problems with New Japan where they were displeased with Ring of Honor for what they did last year at the G1 Supercard. If you guys don't know what I'm referring to, I'm talking about the appearance of Enzo and Big Cass XL attacking in that fatal four-way tag team match for winner take all. And that's one of those things that's been happening the entire time. That's one of the things. So, could this be a possibility now that Harold Mage could be leaving, and now we may see the possibility that AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling? Now, let's look at the pros and cons on how this works. The pros here, a lot of fans who here in the States know who New Japan Pro Wrestling is, then they will love to see any of those wrestlers like Kazuchika Okada or Hiroshi Tanahashi or anyone. And that's what that benefits. What is the cons on this? Well, there is cons that there's fans who don't know who these guys are and they never heard of them. And that's okay, because sooner or later they will. But if you guys are not familiarized with New Japan Pro Wrestling, get yourself the new NJPW World Live on Demand. It's cheaper than the WWE Network. You guys will get a kick out of it. You get to see what the Bucks and Kenny and Hammond did in New Japan and all this and that. That is one of those things you can pay attention for. So that's always been the top of discussions the entire time. Now, some of you would say, why would New Japan benefit having AEW be their partners if they're in Ring of Honor's partnership? Well, there is certain things that I can see. Even Nico and I have spoken about this many times over, even when we're not filming. The way I see it is this. I look at AEW as they have a much bigger platform. They have ways to expose themselves, try to put the product out and advertise some matches on televised commercials, all this and that. Ring of Honor doesn't do that. Don't get me wrong. Ring of Honor does have some great talent, but however, their product is not being stand out. I mean, if you guys have the Honor Club, that's like $9.99, like $10 to watch. To subscribe for $10 a month, and that's all you get to see. They don't normally come down to California. that's always been talked. You're probably asking me this: how is they're not coming to California? Well, the Bucks have been to California because they've normally been wrestling with Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, since Ring of Honor doesn't come here. So, but Ring of Honor allowed them to go to Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. That's one of the reasons. So I don't know where this leads. Now, could New Japan work together with both Ring of Honor and AEW? Maybe. Maybe some wrestlers like working with Ring of Honor. Others want to work with AEW. If you guys don't recall this past Wrestle Kingdom back in early January, we had Hiroshi Tanahashi face Chris Jericho for the AEW title. That was mostly the beginning where the discussion. But Nick Jackson said it's not gonna happen. It's not. Don't hold your breath. That type of thing. But we just gotta wait and see what happens. If there is a possibility of a partnership, then we'll just gotta wait and see. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. So if you guys like what I reviewed so far on both shows, if you guys want to leave a comment about if it's possible with New Japan and AEW working together, you can leave a comment. We'll follow up more on this if there's any more discussions on this. So I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.